That brings us to, our ability to use this, 828, Roosevelt as our O&M facility, which is what our plan was. We worked very nicely with the city and we appreciate that. Unfortunately, it's been delayed and there's been some, additional extensions that have occurred. What we're asking for is, to put this final financing package together. We're asking for an extension that would bring it to June 30th, closing on or before June 30th. And we understand that puts the city in a questionable position where, what if, and what happens, what with the facility, if we've got somebody interested in buying it. Well, what we're proposing is that we're asking for the extension, but we're also saying if you'd like to go ahead and market it, and if you absolutely find a buyer, we're happy to step aside. But the O&M facility focused in Marion represents a really good opportunity for us to have a nice hub where services are provided as opposed to in the middle of the project, which is what is more typical for projects this size. Again, this probably represents between 8 and 12 positions. Many of them, if not all of them, may be new to the community, bringing in new residents as well as their families. Buying your lunches, groceries, gas, homes inside Marion. So that's the request. We're excited to move into the next phase of the things that we can control. I'm happy to take any questions.
Has anybody shown any interest in this while it's been going on with Expedition?
I have to defer to Randy.
I have not had any inquiries about the building, within the last, we had an inquiry, right after the 1st of 2020, but nothing since.
And you'd be willing to put this in the agreement that you would step aside and release your control of the property?
That's right. We've provided an amendment that stated so, and the amendment basically just says if the city has a buyer for the property who signs a purchase agreement in a backup situation, we've got 5 days to perform, and if we can't perform, then we back away. The contract is null and void.
Jesse, are you willing to give us a little bit more for keeping it? Is that a good way of saying it?
I wish I could tell you, I wish I could give you a really good answer to that, but unfortunately, I'm not authorized to, put anything else out there. That being said, if there was a request, and a marked up request to the amendment, I'm happy to take that back and for consideration as well.
How much do we pay on it a month, Roger? Do we pay monthly on that building?
Yes.
Jesse, these may be facts that you're not aware of, that the city has gone through, and I'd like to just go through a timeline with you.
Sure.
Okay, we started this in May of 2019 when Expedition put down the $5,000 as a earnest payment. The contract was signed in November 2019, and an extra lot was put with this purchase. March the 17th, the contract expired, according to Randy's notes, and then on March the 23rd, city attorney was reviewing the contract, and this contract had not been renewed until June the 8th, 2020, way past the expiration date. June the 8th, 2020, a special meeting to extend the agreement to November the 30th, 2020, and $10,000 earnest money was put down at that time. And it was extended to, let's see. Okay, on November the 16th, the city council extended the contract to February the 26th with the following statement and amendment. This contract is subject to the buyer obtaining tax equity of financing or waiver of this condition on or before February the 26th, 2021. If the buyer fails to provide evidence of tax equity financing or waiver by said date, this contract shall be null and void, and all monies deposited by the buyer to the seller shall remain with the seller, with either party having any further responsibility or liability to each other. November the 16th, Expedition did pay $16,000 for the fiber optic. And then on February 22nd, you're asking for another extension to June 30th, with this agreement. But this February amendment says it all. It's time to end the contract and ask for full payment or walk away and put it back on the market. It is a known fact that the city has done everything it could to bring Expedition Wind to the industrial park. I am sure that we are all looking forward to having Expedition Wind as part of our community, but how much longer can we support this contract? It has cost the city in taxes alone $10,397.86 in 2019, $10,657.40 in 2020. We still owe taxes for at least a half a year in 2021 if we decide to extend the contract to June 30th. And that will cost us over $5,000. We also pay the insurance on the building, all the utilities, while maintaining the landscape. I know of no other business that would enter into a contract and pay all expenses for 2 years simply to sell the building. This, my fellow council member, is a disservice to our taxpayers, wasting their tax money. Although we would love to have you down. On supporting this sales agreement and paying all expenses, I am always hearing save the taxpayers' dollars. Everybody knows that we are in disagreement on paying our share of the expenses at the swimming pool on the annual payment of $100,000 to the school district 408. Yet we can waste taxpayers' money on paying expenses on a sales agreement with virtually no end in sight. It's time to call it quits. I would recommend that this amendment dated February the 26th, 2021 stand, and we should ask for full payment or move on, as it certainly cannot cost the city any more than it has in the last 2 years to put it back on the market. If they choose not to pay the balance of the contract, we would be ahead by keeping the earnest money as stated in the amendment and reimbursing the city for the expenses of this contract. The expenses of this contract so far is $32,157. That's taxes, utilities, fiber optic, just the $3,000, and taxes in 21. And I didn't include the insurance that we carry on this building. Therefore, I, Ruth Herbal, move not to accept the request amendment to the real estate agreement with Expedition Wind LLC on the property located at 828 North Roosevelt unless by mutual agreement they agree to pay an additional $30,000 to cover the incurred expenses over the last 2 years. Then the amendment may be extended to June the 30th, 2021. If this is not acceptable, they will have until February the 26th, 2021 by the close of business at 5 o'clock to pay the owed money on contract, or the contract becomes null and void, as stated in this agreement.
Ruth, I got a question for you. How are we in a worse position if we agree to this amendment to the contract that we have with them? We can market it, we can find a buyer, we can proceed with the sale if there's somebody interested.
We're still paying taxes and insurance on it,
And if we cut them off, we're still paying taxes and insurance.
but we
on it.
can't lose any more than what we've lost in the last 2 years.
We're still paying
What if
taxes
we
and
don't
insurance.
sell it for another 3 years?
Yeah,
Somebody will come along if we market it.
well, they haven't in the past, and I don't see that there's any others coming along.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
in favor of doing this amendment with this provision in there. I probably wouldn't have been agreeable if you had not put something along those lines in there. With that in there, we want you here in town. We're always saying, let's get some business, let's bring in new people. You're talking 8 to 10 people with families, with school kids,
I agree, Chris.
with money in their pocket to shop. I'm willing to give them a little more time, and this is the way it works in business. Sometimes you gotta give a little to get a little. Sometimes you gotta back and forth, and then finally it comes together.
But 2.5 years?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Well, can we,
their
I
fault.
have
I
a
don't see
motion
where
on
we're
the floor.
losing more money than we would if we chopped this thing off.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor asking that they pay an additional $30,000 to cover our expenses for the last 2 years.
I'll ask you to repeat the motion because I'm not sure our clerk.
I did not
got
hear
it
all
all.
that.
Okay. I, Ruth Herbal, move not to accept the requested amendment to the real estate sales agreement with Expedition Wind LLC on property located at 828 North Roosevelt, unless by mutual agreement, they agree to pay an additional $30,000 to cover the incurred expenses over the last 2 years. Then the amendment may be extended to June 30th, 2021. If this is not acceptable, they will have until February the 26th, 2021, by the close of business at 5 p.m. to pay the owed amount on the contract, or the contract becomes null and void, as stated in the agreement.
Question, Jesse, by the 26th, you wouldn't even be able to get that approved, would you? There's no way.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded, further discussion. I somewhat agree with the fact that, we're still gonna have to pay the insurance, the utilities, the taxes. It doesn't really change anything.
This agreement states that it's null and void, and the money goes back to the city, so that's 20,000 that we could apply to the 30,000 we've lost.
Okay, any further discussion?
Now, how are you gonna state this in the vote then, David?
I couldn't hear you, Jerry.
How are you gonna state this, the vote?
We're roll call.
Well,
She wants them to pay the 30,000 of our expenses and then keep the contract, but the contract that they're suggesting is saying we still could sell it in the meantime before June 30th. Otherwise, we're not going to sign the contract, is what she's saying. But there's no way that they can, in 4 days, know that they can get that money.
Okay,
I'm with you.
any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion fails, 4-1. I'll entertain a motion to, approve the contract amendment request by Expedition LLC. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
I have a comment.
Yes.
If you come up with any more earnest money, we'd certainly accept it and put it to good use.
I appreciate that, I appreciate all your, consideration. The one thing that I would say as well is that the monies that we have put up, that's all non-refundable, so we will, we're not due any of that back, by the way, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one question, Dave. If we would purchase or sell this building, what's the purchase price?
Well, I think this council as a whole has to determine that.
Negotiate it.
Exactly. If somebody comes and wants to purchase it, we need to negotiate that.
Okay, are we gonna advertise it?
You know? Whatever this council wants to do. Number 17, Suez Advanced Solutions Program for Water Towers. Mr. Jackson.
How are y'all doing? My name is Jim Jackson. I work for Suez Utility Service Company, but our parent company is, Suez, which is a French company, but I work for the North American division that's really kind of had roots in the United States for quite a while. And, I was asked here last fall to kind of come out and take a look at your tower, I'm gonna call it your small tower, there by the school. With possible, some repair work that needed done, so, I'm gonna have you kind of go through kind of put together a little presentation here, at any time, during it, stop, holler, and let me know, and I'll be happy to answer any type of questions there, so. Like I said, Suez Advanced Solutions, we do have, over 600 people that work actually in my division. The company-wide we got about 90,000 people worldwide that works for Suez. We were founded, the Utility Service Advanced Solutions portion was founded in the United States, a little over 50 years ago. We got some deep roots in Kansas, I'll talk about here in a second. Currently, we have a little over 4,000 municipals that are working with us with tanks, wells, all kinds of different assets that the city may have. We do have, 20, I call it 20, there's actually considered 19 service centers across our country that can come in and do work. One of the things that, I'm proud about with our company is we're the only tank company that's ISO 9001 certified. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the ISO regulations, but basically, we go through audits, every couple of years, and they come in and look, and basically what we say we're gonna do, we do. And that's how we get our ISO rating. Tanks is our main line of business, and with tanks, we do over 8,000 tank inspections a year, and about 1,500, renovations a year, across the United States. So far with our asset management program, we have over 8,000 assets that, we take the risk for. Still the municipal's ownership, but we take those risks for. Yeah. Again, I said, we got deep roots in Kansas, and it kind of goes back to the 60s. This is still one of our service centers, in Kansas, down in Pittsburgh, Kansas. It started in 62, putting in some water lines, and then it kind of went to Midwest Tank. I'm gonna say somewhere along the line with the city, you probably had Midwest Tank on that tank before, because a lot of people call us the green top tank company, because we always painted the tops of our tanks green. And I did notice that there was a little bit of green, on that rooftop. So I'm gonna say probably somewhere along the line, we came and did some work on that tank. As you can see, kind of went on to Utility Service Company, then Suez Advanced Solutions there. So we do have quite a bit different people in our regions that's got quite a bit of knowledge with water tanks. In our region here, I mentioned the service centers. We actually have 3 of the service centers in the central region here. One's in Texas, one's in Arkansas, and then the one out of Pittsburgh, Kansas. This is just kind of a partial list of some of the different cities and rural water districts that are currently using our asset management program on water tanks. Currently, we actually have, there's 146, utilities, water systems across the state that are under our tank asset management program. And quite a few of them, Manhattan one just renewed theirs, and they've got 7 tanks. We've got, 6 tanks in Garden City. So some of them have multiple tanks, on our asset management program. That just kind of a picture of that. I did have on there 170 customers. We've actually got quite a few customers, but actually maintenance programs are 146. So what we did was we looked at your small tank, and we kind of gave our recommendations, for that. And you can see there the exterior renovations. What we recommend is a power wash, and then what we're going to do is what we call SP11. We're going to spot prime any bare metal. Make sure that no rust gets there, and then we will overcoat with 2 coats of exterior coatings, basically just like it's on that tank. One thing I will tell you guys with that tank, it does have a lot of lead. There is a lot of lead in that tank. We do paint analysis, on all these tanks when we're looking at them. The thing I want you to remember is it can have lead on it as long as it stays on the tank. Once it starts flaking off, then you're going to have some issues. Once you get to that point, you're talking probably just $125,000 just to do containment, on that tank. So as long as you keep good coats on there, no problem there. What we also, would do on there is repaint your city name on 2 sides, and then we'll coat and seal your foundations. And I got some pictures on this stuff here in just a little bit on PowerPoint. On the interior, we never just overcoat. what we always do is totally blast down, to the metal and then do 2 coat of epoxy coating on that. The reason we do that is, that is that drinking water side. Want to make sure that, it does maintain a good coating system, make sure that it helps protect, that water quality. With the tank, we're gonna strip seam, again, 2 full coats of epoxy. And once we're done on that, we're gonna, disinfect it, according to KKG regulations, and that way it'd be ready for service. With this small tank, there's quite a few different repairs that we would recommend. One is a new KDHE approved, frost-proof vent on the top. Your overflow, actually, we recommend redoing it from top to bottom, up the upper side. There are a lot of holes in that overflow pipe. We would recommend a flapper screen, is what KDHE likes to see at the termination point of your overflow. And with this one too, we would extend it out just a little bit, and I'll show you on the picture what I'm talking there. We would recommend here a new sideway, manway, or a new interior ladder, to get down inside to work. Repair the holes that are actually in the roof, and one of the things that we would recommend too, just so you don't have this maintenance item later on, is the spider rods, and I have a picture of those, on that interiors too, so. This basically just a picture of your sidewall. You can kind of see that the paint is still coated on there good, but it is starting to fade and, needs kind of freshened up, to help keep that lead intact on there. This is the overflow I was talking about. You can see that it is screened. What we'd recommend is extending that out a little farther. Here, if it just comes out a little bit, you're just running right back under that leg. But again, we would recommend, coating and sealing all that foundation, keep any frost, freeze-thaw cycles from affecting it. Just a picture of the balcony. It does have a lot of the cell stuff on there. None of it's active, so we'd recommend, taking all that off. This is on the interior. Those rods going around there is what we call the spider rods. What those are usually for is when you're building that water tank, you put that on and it keeps everything intact until that roof gets on. Usually once it's done, you can take those off. A lot of people like just to leave them on for that extra support. The only problem is they're above that water line, and usually anything above that water line will slowly start to corrode with just the chlorine in the water. Right. Again, just some interior pictures, of your interior there. You can kind of see on the side wall there, the rust spots, on that. And then that one's just looking down, you can kind of see where those rivets are, and the rust area there. This is the overflow pipe I was talking about. Up there you can see where it is kind of eating through with that metal. Right. These are some of the holes that are actually in the roof there. There's that little bit of green paint I was talking about earlier there. You can kind of see some. Again, some additional holes. That was kind of it for the small tank.
Those holes in the top of the tank,
Do it on the roof.
is that a violation for KDHE?
It is a sanitary defect, yeah, KDHE.
Because there could be contamination.
With the number of buzzards you have on that tank, probably somewhere along the line.
Thank you.
Well, are you gonna do anything to get rid of the buzzard?
Well, law enforcement would be a good one. If they just drop blanks as they're starting to roost, you can get their roosting habits broken. Our guys down in Georgia have quite a bit of buzzard problems. I talked to them, and they actually have stuffed buzzard that was collected legally. I'm not sure how they collect them legally, but it's actually stuffed and they hang them upside down. And that kind of scares others away. When I asked about it, they said it was like $1,200 per stuffed one. I said, how efficient are they? And they said maybe 30%. And I just have hard hard time telling people to spend $1,200, if you're only gonna get maybe 30%, where, you know, Wildlife and Parks has the propane cannons that you can go out and just make that loud ruckus. One guy I talked to, he went out with just a little laser, they do not like lasers, so, you know,
How are you?
shine lasers on them, they start to, you know, anything you can do to break that roosting cycle, so.
I just got a quick question, is, with the holes in the tank, how would you propose to repair that?
What we would
Is
do
that a
is,
plate you'd put on?
we would plate each one. The thing is, when we got the call to kind of look at it, you know, there's holes in the roof, we thought, man, the roof is still structurally sound, it's just got holes in it. So what we recommend is plating, you know, few of those, you know, make one plate, cover it. So it is gonna have that patchwork on the top, but, you know, once it's all done, painted, you know, you wouldn't notice it from the ground, and unless you sat there with binoculars and really just zoomed in on it.
Is this not the tower that has antennas up there? Would you recommend removing those?
Yeah, this is the one that has them, but they're not active.
Yeah, could it be removed then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So as long as whoever had them, you know, doesn't,
It has been there for years.
okay, yeah, I'd recommend, you know, just getting rid of all those, so.
Well, quickly, Roger, the current contract we have now refused to do any work on the tower because of antennas, is that correct?
That is correct. Their last inspection, which was to have occurred before I contacted Jim. Jim and I have known each other since I've been in the municipality. He worked for Kansas Municipal Utilities as the water and sewer specialist for years. Okay, so when our current provider indicated they couldn't climb the tower because the radio frequency was too high, I reached out to Jim to ask him to come do an inspection for us.
Is that a true statement?
Yeah,
I mean, is that a true statement? You couldn't work on the water tower with it if the antennas were on there?
depends on where they're at, as long as you're
No,
not.
I'm talking about radio frequency.
As long as you're not in front of that antenna, because a lot of our tanks, we have antennas on the catwalk, you know.
But there is no radio frequency.
As long as, on this one, nothing's active, so there's no way you have any radio frequency, but if you had that antenna there, I mean, and you stood in front of it, we actually have little radio frequency detectors that we wear on our harnesses, so. But yeah, this one has no power, I mean, everything's cut,
Okay,
you know, going to it, so.
continue.
But we did kind of look at your larger tank, but I didn't get this done until, you know, just probably in mid-January there, it may have been even first of February.
Yeah, it was first of February when I got through.
So anyway, our guys came out and climbed it, and this tank, you know, I'm not gonna go step by step through it, because you kind of understood there, but this tank's not near the shape that your small tank is. I mean, it does need some work. Most of this work, I would say, I would